The galaxy was silent, but beneath the stillness, tension pulsed like the heartbeat of a dying star. Humanity had been gone for centuries, exiled to the farthest reaches of space. No one knew exactly when or why it had happened. Some said humanity's downfall was the result of their own arrogance, their wars, and their inability to coexist with other species. Others whispered that it was a betrayal, a planned exile by those who once called them allies. But whatever the truth was, humanity's presence in the galaxy had been erased. Now, after all those years, the story was about to change. In the void of space, a ship appeared out of nowhere. It was no ordinary ship. The sleek, dark silhouette of the Resolute, humanity's last warship, glided across the stars. For years, many believed it was lost, destroyed in a battle that the human fleet had fought long before the exile. But now, the warship was back, a ghost from the past. It was a symbol of defiance, a single ship that carried with it the echoes of a forgotten civilization. The alien forces that had once exiled humanity watched in shock as the Resolute appeared on their radar screens. How could this be? They had erased every trace of humanity's existence. The ship was supposed to be a legend, a tale whispered among the old guards of the galaxy. Yet, here it was, its engines roaring back to life as if nothing had changed. Inside the warship, Captain Maya stood in the command room, her gaze fixed on the view screen. She was the last of her kind, the last human to hold the title of captain. Her crew, a mix of humans and loyal allies, worked silently around her. Each one knew that this mission would decide the fate of their species. "Captain, the enemy fleet is approaching," said Lieutenant Kira, her voice steady, but with an underlying tension. Maya nodded. "I see them. Stay alert. We won't let them push us back. We have a mission to complete." But as much as Maya projected confidence, deep down, she felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. They were alone in enemy territory. The ship was damaged from years of disuse, and they had no idea what dangers lay ahead. But there was one thing she knew for sure. The Resolute was humanity's last hope. If they couldn't survive this, humanity would be lost forever. The alien fleet grew larger in the view screen. There were 5 ships, massive and powerful, their weapons capable of obliterating anything in their path. The crew of the Resolute held their breath, waiting for Maya's orders. She knew that this was no ordinary battle. The fate of their entire species rested on this single moment. "We're outnumbered. We can't beat them with firepower alone," Maya muttered to herself. "We'll have to rely on something else." She turned to her second-in-command, Commander Jace. "Prepare the stealth mode. We'll slip past them and get to their command ship." Jace looked at her, his eyes wide. "You want to get that close to their command ship? It's suicide." "Sometimes suicide is the only option left," Maya replied, her voice hard. "Humanity's been exiled for too long. It's time to make them remember why we were feared." The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone knew this could be their last mission, and no one could be sure of what would happen next. The crew had trained for years for this moment, but even the best training couldn't prepare them for the unknown dangers lurking in the vastness of space. The crew worked quickly, preparing the warship for its final maneuver. The stealth system was ancient, barely functioning, but it was their best shot. As the Resolute powered down its engines and activated the cloaking device, the room fell silent. No one spoke. They were too aware of the gravity of their situation. Outside, the alien ships moved into position, unaware of the human vessel hiding in the shadows. It was a moment of pure tension, the quiet before the storm. For what felt like hours, the Resolute remained still, invisible to the enemy ships. But even in the silence, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Something didn't feel right. Suddenly, the cloaking device flickered. The entire ship shook as if something massive had just collided with them. The crew gasped, struggling to maintain their balance. "Report," Maya barked. "Captain, the cloaking device is failing," shouted Lieutenant Kira, her fingers flying over the control panel. Damn it. We're exposed. Maya's mind raced. If they didn't fix the cloaking device soon, they would be sitting ducks, easy targets for the alien fleet. But before she could order a retreat, the enemy ships began to move, as if sensing the danger. A massive beam of energy shot out from the lead ship, narrowly missing the Resolute. The first attack was a warning, and Maya knew that the battle had begun. Activate evasive maneuvers, Maya commanded. The crew scrambled to follow her orders, but the warship was sluggish, its systems failing in critical areas. The Resolute was not the ship it once was, but Maya had no choice but to push it beyond its limits. The warship fired back, its guns roaring in defiance. For a moment, it seemed like the crew of the Resolute was doomed, but then a voice from the back of the command room broke the tension. "Captain," said Jace, "there's something you need to see." Maya turned to face him, confusion written on her face. "What is it?" Jace pointed to the view screen. "We're not alone." Maya's heart skipped a beat. Just beyond the alien fleet, a small fleet of ships, human-made, emerged from the shadows. There in the distance were signs of life. Humanity was not completely gone. "Another ship, another fleet," Maya whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. But the truth was clear now. The fight was far from over. The warship's return had been just the beginning, and humanity's last hope had just come alive. The warship, the Resolute, drifted through space, the hum of its engines barely audible in the quiet of the command room. Captain Maya stood at the front of the ship's bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. She was staring out into the vast, empty expanse of the galaxy. The stars twinkled in the distance, as though mocking her. How long had it been since humanity had been exiled? How long had it been since the galaxy turned its back on them? But now, with the reappearance of the Resolute, everything was changing. A single warship, a symbol of humanity's past strength. And now, it was the only thing standing between the aliens and the extinction of her people. "Captain," said Lieutenant Kira, her voice steady as always, though Maya could sense the concern in her eyes. "We've made contact with a nearby human fleet." Maya's eyes snapped to Kira. "A fleet? You're sure?" Kira nodded. "We've traced their signal. It's faint, but it's definitely human-made. They're out there, Captain." For a moment, Maya stood frozen. Hope, long thought dead, surged within her. Could it be true? Could there really be more survivors out there? The idea seemed almost too good to be true. But if it was, then maybe they weren't alone after all. Maybe humanity could rebuild, retake their place in the galaxy. "Set a course," Maya ordered, her voice calm but with a new determination. "We'll find them." The crew immediately sprang into action, entering coordinates, preparing the ship for the journey ahead. The Resolute's engines hummed louder, propelling them forward. But Maya knew that they didn't have much time. The alien forces were still closing in on them. They had to move fast. As the ship sped through the galaxy, Maya couldn't help but think of the past, of Earth, her home. What had become of it? Was it still there, a broken world, abandoned by everyone else? Or had it been swallowed by the darkness of space? Her thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Commander Jace, the second in command. "Captain, we've detected a small fleet up ahead. It's definitely human, but they're being pursued." Maya's heart skipped a beat. How many ships are chasing them? 5 ships. They appear to be alien vessels. Their weapons are fully charged. Maya's stomach tightened. 5 enemy ships. They were outnumbered, and there was no guarantee that the small human fleet would be able to defend themselves. The thought of it, the thought of humanity's last chance being destroyed before they even had a chance to unite, was unbearable. "We're not waiting any longer," she said, determination creeping into her voice. "Prepare to engage. We'll break through their forces and get them to safety." The crew moved swiftly. The tension in the room was palpable, and even the quiet hum of the ship seemed to grow louder as they neared the enemy. Maya knew that this would be their first test. They couldn't afford to fail. If they did, the human race could be lost forever. As the Resolute approached the human fleet, Maya saw them. Two small ships, clearly not built for combat, trying to flee from the much larger enemy. The alien ships were closing in on them fast, their weapons glowing with an ominous energy. "Get us in closer," Maya ordered. "We need to draw their fire." The crew worked quickly, the ship's engines surging forward. The Resolute's weapons powered up, and the ship's shields crackled with energy. Maya's heart raced. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity was not ready to give up. "Engage," Maya shouted. The Resolute fired its weapons, sending blasts of energy toward the alien ships. The energy beams struck the enemy vessels with force, shaking the ships and sending them veering off course. But the enemy retaliated quickly, launching their own counterattack. The space around them exploded with energy as the two sides clashed. Maya could feel the ship shudder with each hit, but they held steady. The crew worked in sync, following Maya's commands with precision. They couldn't afford to lose focus, not now. As the battle raged on, the Resolute's guns roared, cutting down one of the alien ships, and the human fleet fired its own shots, targeting the remaining enemy vessels. Maya's mind raced as the battle unfolded. This wasn't just about fighting. It was about proving humanity's strength. The galaxy had forgotten them, cast them aside like an old story. But now, they were back, and they were ready to fight for their place. Minutes felt like hours as the two sides clashed in the cold void of space. The Resolute fired its weapons again and again, tearing through the enemy's defenses. But the alien fleet wasn't going down without a fight. Another alien ship released a series of energy blasts that struck the Resolute, causing the ship to shudder violently. "Captain," Kira shouted, "shields at 40%. We're taking heavy damage." Maya's grip tightened on the command chair. "We can't back down now. Push forward. We have to protect the human fleet." With a final push, the Resolute launched a devastating barrage at the lead alien ship. The blast hit its target, and the ship exploded in a flash of light, disintegrating in an instant. The remaining enemy ships turned and fled, unable to withstand the combined assault from the Resolute and the human fleet. As the battle ended and the last of the alien ships retreated, Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They had done it. Against all odds, they had fought back and won. The human fleet, now safe, hailed the Resolute. Maya's heart swelled with pride. It wasn't just a victory for the ship or her crew. It was a victory for humanity. "Captain, we owe you everything," the voice over the comm said. "We never thought we'd see another human warship again." Maya smiled, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You're not alone anymore. We've got more ships coming. Humanity is back." The crew of the Resolute watched as the stars stretched ahead of them, the path now open for what was to come. The journey was far from over, but they had made the first step. They had returned. The stars stretched out before them like a vast sea of possibilities, but Captain Maya's mind was focused on one thing: the future of humanity. The battle against the alien fleet was only the beginning, and she knew that the galaxy wasn't going to let humanity's return go unnoticed. The path ahead would be filled with challenges, but Maya was determined that the Resolute would carry humanity's hope all the way to victory. As the warship cruised deeper into space, heading toward the coordinates of the new human fleet they had just rescued, Maya gathered her crew in the briefing room. The air was thick with anticipation. They had won their first battle, but the journey ahead was uncertain, and everyone knew that there would be even harder battles waiting. The room grew quiet as Maya entered, her eyes scanning the faces of her crew. They were a mix of humans and loyal allies from various species who had fought alongside Earth in the old days. Each one had their own reasons for joining this mission, but they all shared a common goal: to see humanity rise again. "All right, everyone," Maya began, her voice firm yet calm. "We've made it this far, But the real fight is only just beginning. We've alerted the human fleet to our presence, but we can't expect them to simply welcome us with open arms. The aliens who exiled us are still out there, and they won't hesitate to destroy everything we've worked for. A low murmur rippled through the room as the crew exchanged looks. They had heard the stories of humanity's betrayal, the war that had led to their exile. Some of the aliens still saw humans as a threat to their dominance in the galaxy. Maya had heard the rumors too, that many factions within the galaxy would rather see humanity wiped out than allow them to reclaim their place. We need to be prepared, Maya continued. This warship is powerful, but we're not invincible. The enemy has more ships, more resources, and they won't just come after us. They'll come after any fleet that aligns itself with humanity. Her words were met with silence. The stakes had just been made clear. They had to be careful. They couldn't afford to trust anyone too easily, even their fellow humans. Humanity's return had already caused a stir, and there were many factions out there that might not share their vision for the future. Commander Jace, standing at the front of the room, spoke up. "Captain, what's the next move? Do we rendezvous with the human fleet?" Maya nodded. "Yes, but we need to be cautious. We don't know what kind of forces they have. The last thing we want is to walk into a trap." The crew went to work, preparing the Resolute for the next phase of their journey. There was a hum of activity on the bridge as they activated the ship's communication systems and prepared for the rendezvous. Maya stood at the window, gazing out into the vast unknown. She knew they couldn't rely on just one ship to win the war. They needed allies, and they needed a strategy to make humanity's return something that could not be ignored. As the hours passed, the Resolute finally arrived at the coordinates where the human fleet had been located. But as they approached, Maya felt a sense of unease settle in her stomach. There was something off about the situation. The fleet was there, but they weren't moving like a battle-ready force. There were no signs of heavy activity, no indication that the ships were prepared for anything other than peaceful negotiations. "We're being hailed." Kira's voice broke through the tension. "It's the human fleet." Maya's heart raced. This was the moment of truth. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Put it through." A moment later, the face of a man appeared on the view screen. His uniform was faded, his eyes tired. He had the look of someone who had seen too many battles, too many losses. But there was something else in his eyes, a flicker of hope. "I'm Admiral Corbin," the man said, his voice low. "You must be Captain Maya. We've been waiting for you." Maya nodded. "It's good to see another human fleet out here, but we need to talk about what happens next." Admiral Corbin's expression shifted, and Maya could see the weight of the years of exile in his eyes. "We've been in hiding for a long time, Captain. The galaxy's changed. There are alliances now, ones we may not be able to break. If we show ourselves, we risk everything." Maya didn't flinch. "If we don't show ourselves, we risk losing everything. Humanity isn't meant to be forgotten. We were exiled, yes, but we survived, and we're coming back." The Admiral sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I know. Believe me, I know. But you're right. If we stay hidden, we'll never take back what's ours. But what makes you think we'll stand a chance against the forces that still control the galaxy? You saw what we're up against. We barely escaped with our lives." "We have the Resolute," Maya said firmly, her voice rising with the strength of her conviction. "And together, we can take back what was stolen from us. We can unite the human fleets, rally the lost colonies. We can rebuild." The Admiral paused for a long moment, his eyes searching Maya's face. Finally, he nodded. "All right, Captain. Let's do it. But we need to move fast. The aliens won't wait long before they strike." "Agreed," Maya said. "Let's gather the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is back." As the communication ended, Maya turned to her crew, her resolve stronger than ever. The mission had just become even more critical. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for a future, for the chance to restore what had been lost. The stakes were higher than ever, and the challenges ahead were uncertain. But one thing was clear: humanity was going to fight for their place in the galaxy. As the Resolute prepared to lead the way, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part of the journey was yet to come. They had just taken their first step toward reclaiming their future, but the galaxy was not a forgiving place. The real battle was only beginning. The silence in the command room was thick with anticipation. Captain Maya stood at the head of the table, gazing at the holographic display in front of her. The human fleet was gathering, small, fractured, but growing. Ships that had been scattered across the galaxy, lost or hiding in the shadows, were now coming together, drawn by the beacon of hope that the Resolute represented. Yet, as much as Maya wanted to feel relief, there was still a nagging doubt in the back of her mind. They had only taken one small step. The real test had yet to come. She turned to face her crew, who were gathered around her, each one a key part of the puzzle that would determine humanity's future. Lieutenant Kira, Commander Jace, and the rest of the officers had already started planning their next move. Maya could see the weight of the responsibility on their shoulders. This wasn't just about one ship, one battle. This was about rebuilding everything humanity had lost. "We're ready to proceed, Captain," Jace said, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying a hint of unease. "The human fleet is forming up, and we've established a communication network. But we still don't know what the alien factions are planning. We might have made a dent in their forces, but they'll be watching us closely now." Maya nodded slowly. She knew that the aliens wouldn't take kindly to humanity's return, and she had no illusion about the risks they faced. The galaxy had changed since their exile. New alliances had been formed. New power structures had risen. Some of these factions had no love for humanity and might see their return as a threat to the delicate balance they had worked so hard to create. Maya's gut told her that they had to move quickly. The longer they stayed in one place, the more likely it was that the aliens would find a way to strike. "We'll need to make contact with the other human factions and coordinate our forces," Maya said, her voice calm, though she could feel the weight of her words. "But first, we need to understand where we stand. If we're going to rebuild, we need to know who we can trust and who will stand with us." Kira's fingers flew over her console as she began to pull up data. "We've already identified a few key human colonies in the area. The largest one is located on the edge of the Trillium Nebula. It's not well defended, but it's got a strong civilian population. They may be hesitant to join us, but they've got resources we could use." Maya crossed her arms, considering the information. "We'll need to tread carefully. If we approach them too aggressively, they might turn us away. Let's reach out to them first, see if they'll agree to a meeting. We need to establish trust." As the crew continued to prepare for the next phase, Maya found herself alone for a moment, standing at the bridge's viewport, staring into the cold expanse of space. The stars seemed endless, their distant light flickering like faint whispers from the past. She couldn't help but wonder if the galaxy would ever see humanity as more than just a memory. Would they ever be accepted again? Or would they always be viewed as the exiles, the ones who had been cast out for reasons unknown? Her thoughts were interrupted when Kira's voice came through the comms. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the human colony in the Trillium Nebula. They've agreed to meet with us." Maya's heart lifted slightly. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. "Prepare the ship," she said. "We'll set course for the nebula immediately." As the Resolute powered up, the crew went to work, coordinating with the human fleet to ensure they wouldn't be caught off guard. The journey to the Trillium Nebula took several days, but the crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship in top condition. The weight of their mission was heavy on everyone's shoulders. They were all aware of the importance of what they were doing, but they also knew that this fragile alliance could shatter at any moment. When they finally arrived at the edge of the nebula, Maya could see the colony ships floating just beyond the cloud of gas and dust. It wasn't much, a handful of ships, some worn from years of isolation, but it was a sign that humanity was not completely lost. As the communication channels opened, a figure appeared on the view screen. She was older, her face lined with age and worry, but there was a fire in her eyes, a fire that told Maya this woman was a survivor. "I'm Governor Lyra," the woman said, her voice firm yet cautious. "You're Captain Maya, I presume?" Maya nodded. "Yes. It's an honor to meet you, Governor Lyra. We've come to talk about the future of humanity. We need your help to rebuild." Governor Lyra looked at her, eyes narrowing slightly. "Rebuild? After all these years? I don't know what you're asking for it, Captain. We've been surviving, barely. The galaxy is a different place now. There are powers out there that don't want to see humanity rise again." "I understand," Maya said, her voice steady. "But we've already seen what happens when humanity remains hidden. We're stronger together, and together we can face the threats that lie ahead." The governor was silent for a long moment, as if weighing the risks and rewards. Finally, she spoke. "I've heard rumors of your ship, the Resolute, but rumors aren't enough. If you want us to join you, you'll have to prove it." Maya didn't hesitate. "We'll prove it. Let us show you that humanity is still a force to be reckoned with." The governor's eyes softened just a little. "All right, we'll meet with your fleet. But know this, Captain. Trust is earned, not given." As the transmission ended, Maya turned to her crew, a determined look on her face. "Prepare for the meeting. Let's show them we're serious." The tension that had been building over the past days seemed to shift. They had taken the first step toward forging an alliance, but the journey ahead would not be easy. The galaxy was full of dangers, both known and unknown, and they had yet to face the true power of the forces that had exiled humanity. But Maya had made a promise. She would fight to bring humanity back, no matter the cost. As the Resolute moved closer to the human fleet, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had made it this far. Now they just had to keep going. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity was not done yet, and as long as they had the courage to fight, they would never give up on their future. The rendezvous with the human colony in the Trillium Nebula marked a significant turning point in Maya's mission. The cold expanse of space stretched on endlessly, but now there was a flicker of hope, a possibility that humanity might still have a future in the galaxy. However, despite the tentative alliance forged with Governor Lyra, Maya knew that they were far from safe. The galaxy had been reshaped during humanity's absence, and many factions, both human and alien, had no desire to see humanity rise again. Their survival now depended on one thing: unity. As the Resolute docked near the small fleet of the Trillium colony, Maya stood on the bridge, watching the other ships carefully. They were small compared to the Resolute, but they were strong in their own way. These ships had been built with the determination to survive, and it was clear from the state of the colony's ships that their crews were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. "Captain," Kira's voice cut through Maya's thoughts. "We've received a message from the colony. Governor Lyra is ready to meet in person. She wants to discuss the terms of the alliance." Maya's expression hardened with focus. The governor's words from earlier echoed in her mind. Trust is earned, not given. She understood the caution in Lyra's voice, but Maya was determined to prove that humanity had a future. They didn't have the luxury of time to waste. The galaxy had moved on without them, and now they needed to catch up. "Set course for the colony's flagship," Maya ordered. "Prepare to dock." The crew quickly got to work, and soon the Resolute was in position to land on the flagship of the Trillium fleet. The ship's massive hull settled with a soft thud as the docking bay doors opened, revealing a small, sterile space where Maya and her crew would meet with Governor Lyra and her advisors. As Maya entered the meeting room, she was greeted by a handful of officers, all wearing worn uniforms that spoke of years of struggle. Governor Lyra stood at the head of the table, her face stern but not unkind. She gestured for Maya to take a seat, and Maya did so, settling herself at the table. The room was quiet, the air thick with unspoken questions. "We've agreed to meet, Captain," Governor Lyra began, her voice low but firm. "But understand this. We've been surviving on our own for a long time. We have resources, but they are limited. We cannot afford to give them away to just anyone. If we join forces, there must be something in it for us." Maya leaned forward, her tone steady. "I understand, and I don't expect you to join us without good reason. But I believe that together we can rebuild something greater. We can restore humanity's presence in this galaxy." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "And how exactly do you plan to do that? The galaxy is not the same as it was. We're no longer the dominant power. We're not even a recognized force anymore. There are factions out there that will stop at nothing to make sure humanity stays forgotten." Maya nodded, acknowledging the truth in the governor's words. The galaxy had changed, but that didn't mean humanity had no place in it. That's why we need to unite. We've got the technology, the knowledge, and the will to survive. We can't go it alone. But if we join forces, if we stand together, we can begin to reclaim our place. Lyra studied Maya for a long moment, as if weighing the sincerity of her words. Finally, she sighed. "You're right. We've been isolated for too long. But trust doesn't come easily. You'll need to prove that humanity is ready to be a partner in this galaxy, not just a shadow of its former self." Maya didn't flinch. "I'll prove it, Governor. We've already taken the first step. The Resolute is back, and we're not backing down." Governor Lyra seemed to consider this for a moment before speaking again. "All right. We'll start with a trial run. We'll send a small delegation to meet with the other human factions in the area. If they agree to align with us, we'll begin talks to form a larger alliance. But I'll be watching closely. If you betray us, if you give us any reason to doubt your intentions, we'll cut ties immediately." Maya's gaze never wavered. "I understand, Governor. We'll prove ourselves." The meeting ended with an agreement, tentative, but a start. As Maya and her crew made their way back to the Resolute, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the decision that had just been made. This was only the beginning, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But one thing was clear. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. As the Resolute prepared to move toward the next step in their mission, Maya stood in the command room once more, gazing out at the stars. There was a fire in her heart, a fire that had been rekindled by the promise of a future, the possibility of a new beginning. But she also knew the road ahead would not be easy. Their enemies were numerous, and they would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity remained exiled. But the people of the Trillium Fleet had made their choice. They had chosen to trust in humanity's ability to rise again. Now Maya had to make sure that trust wasn't misplaced. She would fight for it, for her crew, for humanity's place in the stars. The challenges ahead were great, but she was ready. Together, they would rebuild. Together, they would show the galaxy that humanity had not been defeated. As the Resolute glided through the stars once more, Maya could see the road ahead, winding and uncertain. But she was not afraid. They had come too far to turn back now. And with every new ally they made, with every small victory, humanity's return to the galaxy became that much more certain. The journey toward rebuilding humanity's place in the galaxy had led them to this critical moment. After weeks of diplomatic meetings, quiet planning, and careful negotiations, the Resolute had become a symbol of humanity's resurgence. The once scattered and fragmented human factions had begun to unite, realizing that together they could form something far greater than the sum of their parts. But even as hope blossomed, there was still much to be done. And the path forward was anything but guaranteed. Captain Maya stood at the bridge, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. The crew had worked tirelessly, and the human fleet was now larger, more coordinated, and more determined than ever. But the galaxy had not yet welcomed them back. There were still many unanswered questions. How would the other species react to humanity's return? Would they accept the newly formed human alliance, or would they seek to sabotage it before it could gain momentum? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. Lieutenant Kira entered the room, her face marked with a mix of exhaustion and determination. As they arrived at the coordinates, Maya's stomach tightened. The Polaris fleet was impressive, its ships sleek and advanced. These were ships that had seen years of conflict, ships that represented the strength and resilience of humanity. The Polaris Coalition's flagship was at the center of the formation, its massive hull gleaming in the light of nearby stars. "We're being hailed," Kira said, her voice cutting through Maya's thoughts. "It's the Polaris representative." "Put it through," Maya ordered, taking her seat at the command table. The face that appeared on the view screen was that of a man, his expression stern and unreadable. His uniform marked him as someone of great importance within the Polaris Coalition, but there was no warmth in his eyes, only the cold, calculating gaze of someone who had seen too much of the galaxy's harsh realities. "I'm Admiral Rook," the man said, his voice deep and authoritative. "I trust your journey here was uneventful." Maya nodded, her tone calm but resolute. "Yes, Admiral. We've come to discuss the future of humanity. We believe that by joining forces, we can rebuild and reclaim what was lost. Together, we can face the challenges ahead." Admiral Rook's gaze never wavered. "I'm aware of your ship, Captain. The Resolute is known to us. What I'm not sure of is whether humanity's return is truly something the galaxy needs, or something we can trust." Maya didn't flinch. She knew this wouldn't be an easy conversation. "I understand your concerns, Admiral. But you must realize, we've been in exile for too long. We've survived, we've adapted, and we've learned from the mistakes of the past. Our return isn't a threat. It's a chance for us to work together to ensure that humanity has a future in this galaxy." Admiral Rook studied her for a long moment, then spoke again, his voice measured. "And what assurances can you offer that your return won't disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy? That your intentions are not selfish?" Maya held his gaze steadily. "Our intentions are clear. We want to rebuild, not to dominate, but to contribute. Humanity has always been a force for innovation, for change. We've learned from our exile, and now we wish to stand with the other species of the galaxy, not above them." The Admiral was silent for a long time, his fingers drumming lightly on the armrest of his chair. Maya knew he was weighing the future of an entire galaxy in his mind, whether the risk of trusting humanity again was worth it. Finally, Admiral Rook spoke. "Very well, Captain. We will meet in person to discuss the terms of this potential alliance. But be warned, we will not make any decisions lightly. There is too much at stake." Maya nodded, a sense of cautious optimism flooding through her. "I understand, Admiral. We'll be ready." The transmission ended, and Maya turned to her crew, her resolve solidifying. The Polaris Coalition had agreed to meet, but their trust would have to be earned. The path ahead was filled with uncertainty, but the promise of a united humanity was worth every step. As the Resolute set course for the Polaris flagship, Maya stood once more on the bridge, looking out at the stars. The galaxy had long since moved on without humanity, but they were no longer the forgotten exiles. With every new alliance, with every step forward, humanity was reclaiming its place in the stars. There would be challenges ahead, obstacles that seemed insurmountable, but Maya knew one thing: humanity was ready to face whatever came their way. And with the Resolute leading the charge, they would show the galaxy that they had only just begun.